Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated to providing you with life strategies with a little bit of entrepreneur advice. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Networking with Michelle show. I have my good friend and colleague, Marvin Pierre, founder of 8 Million Stories. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Of course. This has been a long time coming. HBLI classmate.
Yes. The best class ever. Nobody's done it better than us.
Look, I just got off the phone with Jane, so.
Class 2.
So why don't you tell the people who you are?
My name is Marvin Pierre. I'm the co-founder of 8 Million Stories. I currently serve also as the executive director. I am a native New Yorker. Grew up in South Jamaica, Queens. Now living in Houston, going on 5 years. Came to Houston to be an assistant principal with KIPP Houston Public Schools. Enjoyed that time there where I worked with young boys of color. Then transitioned into my role now, where I worked alongside Vanessa Ramirez in helping to get 8 Million Stories off the ground.
You made some great strides in 5 years.
Yeah.
So how did you get to KIPP? Let's start from there.
I was working in New York. I was a dean of students at an all-boys school, and I really enjoyed my experience. And I was really starting to give a lot of thought about starting my own school for young boys of color. I wanted to start a K through 8 school for young men, and I realized that I had a lot of experience working with the elementary boys and success with them. However, I didn't have much experience with an all-boys middle school setting. And so, I spoke to one of my former principals, and he informed me that KIPP Houston had actually, KIPP, the network itself, had an all-boys school in Houston.
Wow.
And they actually had an opening for an assistant principal. And he felt that I would be a good person for the job. And so literally sent my resume in to the principal and was invited to come down for an interview. I literally stayed in Houston for less than 24 hours.
Wow.
And decided to, come make a transition, take a leap of faith, because for me, I wanted to be convinced that this was God's plan for me, that I was going to be working with young boys. And so for me to really step out on faith and really pursue this goal of starting my own school, I wanted to make sure that this is what I could actually have success with this population. And so came to Houston, did really well during my time at KIPP, and was ready for a new challenge. And I've always been a believer that people in our society who have amazing talents should be taking on society's most challenging issues. And, I had a great conversation with Vanessa Ramirez, who's the original visionary behind 8 Million Stories. And she approached me about joining her in this work. And she told me a lot about the school to prison pipeline. And at the time, I didn't really know how intense it was at the local level in the city of Houston. And so did some research, read about it, and went back to Vanessa and said, yeah, I'd love to do this. And at the time that I was having a conversation with her, I was also in the middle of applying for a fellowship from an organization called the New Teacher Project. And while I was doing the application process, I said to Vanessa, I said, well, we don't have any early startup funding, so there's no way to pay for my salary right now. And so if I get this fellowship, I'm in the middle of applying for this fellowship, and I'll make 8 Million Stories my area of focus, the school to prison pipeline. If I get this fellowship, it'll allow us to have some sort of foundation to build this program off of. And, I was fortunate and blessed to be one of 3 out of an applicant pool of 500 people across the country to be selected as one of the fellows. And so I had a full year salary and benefits covered, with additional resources of about $10,000 to go towards professional development and my learning of the work that I was going to be doing. And so I used that to really help us really get a clear understanding of what we were going to do with 8 Million Stories and how we were going to build this to become an organization that could outlive us, essentially. And so from there, I really was able to take advantage of the New Teacher Project's platform, their extensive network, and their experts. Their staff was amazing in terms of helping me to develop the vision that I wanted to have for 8 Million Stories and making sure that could come to life. And, from there, I just kind of brought in my passion and my, work ethic, and the rest is history.
So can you explain or give us a breakdown of the school to prison pipeline?
Yeah. So the school to prison pipeline here is Really interesting. So in Houston, we refer almost 12,000 kids to the juvenile system every year between the ages of 10 to 18 years of age. And what's concerning about this is when you look at the referrals to these the system, most of them are for nonviolent offenses. And so when you think about a kid going to jail, you're thinking that they're committing crimes, they're just doing some egregious behavior that warrants them to be incarcerated. However, when you look deeper into the data, oftentimes those are from nonviolent offenses, so minor infractions that are actually happening in the school, at the school level. And so what's happened now is that most of our schools have become over-policed by school safety officers. And so no longer is the dean of students, assistant principal, or the principal themselves managing student behaviors and the culture of the school. That is now turned over to school safety officers to manage. And when you turn over folks who have been, have gone through some sort of law enforcement type of training, where their whole intention is to ensure that the environment that they're operating in or assigned to is safe at all times, they're not always thinking from the lens of this is a kid and that I need to approach the situation as if I'm approaching it with my own child, right? Oftentimes their first response to infractions or misbehavior is to arrest a kid, remove a kid from a classroom setting. And oftentimes those don't lead to positive outcomes for our kids. And what happens is that during that interaction, kids make some poor choices and ultimately are directly sent from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. And so when we look at this issue, yes, there's some issues with our kids committing crimes in the community, but when you look at a majority of our issues, it's coming from our school systems. And we're really not doing a great job of educating our teachers, educating our administrators, and most importantly, our school safety officers on how to really take a more restorative approach to dealing with these kids once they make poor decisions, right? The first instance shouldn't be, I'm going to handcuff you and put you in the back of a squad car and take you downtown. That shouldn't be the response, right? Kids are making poor decisions. Your goal is to keep school safe, but that shouldn't be the first point of how we manage student behavior. We really have to figure out a way to really, go through several tiers of intervention to make sure that these kids have a fighting chance to stay in school. Because we know that once they come in contact with the juvenile system, it's almost a fast track to the adult system. And when you look at juvenile justice here in Houston, Black kids make up over 60% of the student population in our facilities. And what's crazy about this is that our Black kids only make up 19% of the student population in HISD. So they're the minority in our school systems and they're majority in the juvenile facilities. So the disproportionality is crazy, right? For Black and brown kids in terms of what we're seeing inside of the facilities versus inside of our schools. And so, the even more concerning part is that once our kids are coming into contact with it, over 60% of them will have contact with the adult system at some point in their lifetime. And so it's almost telling the kids, like, this is your destiny. And there's really no second chance opportunities for you to redirect your life outcome.
Can you discuss the importance of voting when it comes to this, between that school to prison pipeline and adult?
Yeah, I think we also have to really take into account like laws and policies that really push zero tolerance in our schools and really speak out against those. Oftentimes those decisions are being made in Austin every day, right? People are saying this is what we need to do with schools. And that's where it starts, right? How are we pushing policies to reform them so that we're taking more of a restorative approach? Because the less we are raising hell about these issues, the less people are going to be inclined to do anything about it. And so we have to really use the success of programs like 8 Million Stories, several other reentry programs here in Houston that are doing great work with youth to look at these organizations as examples of saying, here's what we need to do better, right? And put the ownership back on our schools and say, there's no need for 8 Million Stories to be in existence if we're doing this work the way we're supposed to. Like, I essentially want to put ourselves out of business by changing laws and policies, right? And so you can't easily send a kid to a juvenile detention facility because it's not like the juvenile detention facility is saying going into the schools and pulling kids out. You're bringing them to them. And so they become the enemy when we should be pointing our fingers back at our school administrators and our superintendents in terms of like what's happening at these schools. Like, why should a principal allocate a significant portion of their school budget towards school safety? Like, you don't have the the staff or the senior administrators to actually, make sure that you can create a loving and supportive environment and healthy environment for kids, if that's not something you can do, you shouldn't be in that position.
Right.
And that's where the accountability comes to play.
How do students find you, students or parents? How do they find you, and what do you do?
We get most of our referrals from juvenile probation.
Okay.
So probation officers will identify us as an option for kids who can't go back into a traditional school, which is illegal, but it's actually happening. So kids are denied re-enrollment post-incarceration in their community schools. And as a result, they have no other options in terms of getting their education or finding assistance with getting employment. And so they'll come to us. We also have now started to see some referrals from our district alternative schools. We've had some contact with individual high schools, local high schools who have identified kids who are overage, undercredited, have had interactions with the juvenile system that are interested in our services and, feel that the environment that we've created and the programming that we offer is suitable for those students. And so we're excited about that. We really started initially in our first year, all we had was just juvenile youth. And then over time, as this program found success, we started to see a diverse population of kids coming into the program, but all having some sort of background issue.
And once they finish the program, what does the transition look like? How do you set them up for success?
So that's one of the biggest things we're working on right now. And so one of the things we are looking to bring on is an alumni coordinator. So someone that continues that pathway to success for our kids after 8 Million Stories. And one of the things we often tell the kids is that once you're done with 8 Million Stories, your journey has not ended, right? This is a continuum of progress that you have to make over time for you to really sustain your success. And so getting an alumni coordinator to really create new opportunities for our kids is critical, because what we don't want them to be is become stagnant and just say, all right, got my GED, got a job, I'm set. Yeah. That's not sustainable, right? Because over time, they're going to have more needs, and that job that they have is not going to be suffice. And so creating opportunities with trade schools, community colleges, and four-year institutions is what we're looking at. So we have a unique opportunity with Toyota, and Toyota has granted 2 to 3 scholarships for our kids who get their GED with us and have interest in the auto technician field. And so Toyota has pledged to, provide support and funding to ensure those kids can actually go to San Jacinto College and, get the support and training that they need to be auto techs and come out making some really good money. And so that's a really exciting thing. And that just speaks to, how possible it is for us to engage community organizations in the work we're doing with juvenile youth. Oftentimes there's this perception that people don't want to deal with them. Mm-hmm. But what's actually we found is that we're actually getting companies reaching out to us saying, how can we get involved? Because what they like to see is something that is structured. Mm-hmm. There's a very clear way for them to be engaged. Mm-hmm. And we don't make them do too much of a heavy lift in terms of trying to figure out where they can fit in and how they can add value. If we're doing that for them and really being clear on where we need their expertise, it's a win-win for both parties. And so we've been able to do a good job of that and being able to include them in all of the developments and being very transparent about the kids that they're going to come in contact with. Some of our kids won't be engaged automatically. They've got to warm up to you. Our kids have trust issues because of their past. And so those are the things that we've done. We've got one girl we're really excited about. She's going to be going to HCC as a 16-year-old. Wow. So amazing. She came to us at, 16, got her GED. We got her a job this summer, and she's going to school. And then we have another girl. She's finalizing her acceptance to Southern. And that was just, because we realized, you are college material. Yeah. There is no reason for you to still be here and just going to work middle skill job. You're going to go to college. Because what's funny is that a lot of our kids have so much potential. It's just that our schools have not been able to bring those out of them. And that goes back to what kind of culture and school environments are we creating for kids that really makes them feel empowered. I've got rival gangs sitting in a small classroom. You walk through our building. If they want to pop off, it's about to go down right in the classroom because there is no room to separate them. Right? We're not operating a big space, but there's a clear expectation about what we're about. And we make that very intent during our interview process. When we meet the kids, there's really nothing that keeps us from not taking a kid unless they don't want it. The thing we are adamant about is that you got to want this for yourself. And if you don't, I can't force you no matter what I'm offering. Like if you're not ready to engage and do what you have to do to be successful, it's not going to work. And I'm a firm believer in that. And oftentimes you see people think that there's a quick fix to disconnected youth. There's not. It starts with self-selecting into something that they believe is going to help them turn their lives around. And if they don't want to do that at that moment, it's okay for us. We don't tell them you can never come back. It's like, come back when you're ready. And we will welcome you with open arms. Some of our best graduates have had that life track, that experience in our program. They came in, hotmess.com all day. Just was not trying to hear no rules and not trying to hear no expectations, not trying to do any work. All right, I'll let life teach you what I'm trying to teach you. And let's see which system you would rather be a part of. And they come back in a different state of mind. They're humbled and realize I was like, yep, you got back into trouble. You're probably homeless right now, so you're out on your luck. And so 8 Million Stories is the only person that's saying, come on in. This is still your family. This is still your home. You still have a home here. And so that's our our experience. One of our core values is love is the foundation. Like at any course, we have 8 values, and the last one is love. Love is the foundation. Like regardless of where they come from, what they've done, love on those kids. And because that's what they're looking for, and that's what most of them miss. Right. And if they don't receive it here, they're not coming here. Like this ain't no fancy building. Yeah. They come here every day.
But it's the importance of having a family within a structured environment. Yep. And that allows them to be more productive and accomplish their goals.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see a kid call you, with a problem, and you're able to solve it for them or help them solve it rather. And that's what our kids enjoy. It's like we're not turning them away. We're not saying I'm closed for the day. It's like, you called me at 10 o'clock. Yep, I'm at my house. Like, what are you doing? But I know that kid is calling me for a reason, or they're calling Miss Thomas for a reason, because we are a consistent piece of their life. And, that's what they value. It's like, if I call you, I know you're going to pick up. If I mess up, I know you're not going to hold a grudge against me. Like, they mess up all the time, do stuff they're not supposed to. They are still kids. And what people tend to overlook is that that's exactly what they are. Yeah. They're still kids. Regardless if he's a 17-year-old that looks like he's 30, he's still a baby. They boo-hoo here all day because they're broken. And so hurt people hurt people. Yeah. And a lot of our kids are coming in with that. And they don't even know what love looks like. When you're nice to them, they're looking at you like you crazy. Like, oh, what you want from me? Yeah. You want nothing from you?
Yeah, guard up already.
Yeah, my kids will be calling me. They're upset about something. I don't match their tone with their tone at times. And that's often a time for them to really step back and say, let me think about the situation before I do something that I'm going to regret. And sometimes you have to educate them and give them the feedback that they need, that nobody else is going to put things in perspective for them.
I like that she said that, because there's so much emphasis on education, which is very, very important. But what are some of the soft skills that they're learning by being here?
I think the biggest thing we are big on is showing up. Do what you say you're going to do. That is a critical life skill that so many kids, even in a traditional setting, don't know. Right? And I think, like, it's crazy. Like, people look at our kids like, oh, Marvin's kids are in a special group. No, my group is just the ones that were not smart enough to not get caught. Those are the ones that got caught. Yeah. There's some kids in the regular schools doing worse. They just haven't got caught.
That's true.
Right? They got some stuff.
Because we've seen it.
Exactly.
When we were in school. Yeah.
When we were in school. And so my kids are just that group of kids. And we know that. But I think a lot for us is like the soft skills is showing up on time. Because what we're trying to do is teach them to win the game of life. Right? Be honest. If you made a mistake, own it. I have more respect for them all the time. Like I check their integrity day one. Me or Miss Thomas, whoever's doing the intake, some of our kids, if they're in a gang, will know based on where their referrals, which probation officer is making the referral. And so oftentimes we'll be in a meeting one-on-one, most likely, with the kid, because sometimes we feel like separating the parents, you get a little bit more authentic responses from the kids. The kids are a little bit more transparent. And so I'm asking, so what gang are you in? Oh, I'm not in the gang, sir. Okay, we're going to try this again. So here's one thing to learn. Don't lie. I was like, if you're in a gang, there's tons of people in the gang. Just make sure they ain't your rival gang. You might have a problem. Yeah. I was like, let's try this again. So you come from cups 9, cups this, cup 6. Those are gang units. So if you come from there, is that your probation officer? Yes, sir. So then you are assigned to, you're a part of a gang. And so, after that, that's when they realize, all right, I can't pull something over your head. And so, all right, so you want to start this conversation over and be really transparent? Let's do that. And so it's a really good way for them to teach them about just don't lie. Just operate with integrity. Because that's, for me as a leader, that's something that I value for myself. I make decisions every day that impacts this program and the people that work with me. And if I'm not operating from integrity, we're in trouble. Yeah. That's the easiest way, especially for a man of color that is doing impactful work against a system that is designed to destroy the lives of Black and brown kids at a very early age. Like, people do not want to see 8 Million Stories succeed. They don't want to see Marvin Pierre succeed. And they're looking for any opportunity to hang you. And I have to operate with that lens, knowing that cover your tracks and make sure you're just doing everything by the book. And if you do that, you sleep better at night. And people leave you alone, hopefully.
I agree. So you partnered with our good colleague, Holly Charles, Houston Play on Purpose for Black, White, and Sunshine.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So how'd that come about?
Well, Holly and I have always talked about juvenile justice. I know that's something that's very personal to her. She's had it's influenced her and her family as well. And I really talked to her about it. I said, what she does in terms of highlighting so many issues that impact Black and brown people in the city. I think the next thing is the school to prison pipeline. Like, we are writing kids off as young as 10 years of age. Between 10 to 11, 60% of those kids between the ages in the juvenile system, ages 10 to 11, 60% of those kids are Black. You have written off a kid's life as young as 10 years of age. That is crazy. 10-year-olds still watching cartoons, still eating a bowl of cereal for breakfast and lunch sometimes, right? And so they're not in any way, shape, or form ready to make life decisions and be mature enough to make good decisions that have positive outcomes. They're going to make millions of mistakes. And for us as a society or as a community to punish those kids in an aggressive way, shame on us. And I think, when I talked to Holly about it, I said, people need to know about this because it's, all you see is on TV and what the media portrays. They'll put a profile of a kid. They'll put his worst picture. They'll put his mugshot. Right? So what does that tell people? Oh, he's a thug. He deserves, give him time, throw the keys away. Right? You don't know the backstory of that kid. You don't know why that kid is stealing. You don't know. Most of my kids here, when I ask them, why'd you do this crime? Why'd you commit this crime? I was hungry. I had to feed my family.
Trying to survive.
I had to survive. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the reasons why I think our society is so, disconnected from it, because we're not creating platforms to tell those stories. And I think what Holly's doing is really going to tell people, like, here's where this problem starts. And it goes back to that voting piece. Like, how do we raise hell against our schools and our policymakers to say, change this? This has got to get better. Texas is behind the ball with this when it comes to zero tolerance. We're just talking about restorative justice. And restorative justice is a trend, right? Like, I haven't seen restorative justice practices work with our most at-risk youth. Like, show me that. Don't put me in a room with kids who have some minor issues with each other and they're talking it out. My kids here, talking it out is the last option. Mm-hmm. Their first response is fight. So how do you get those kids to figure out and accept that using my hands, using a weapon, or anything that can cause harm to someone should be my last option? I haven't seen that. And so for us, I think it's still a development. I'm glad that we're actually starting to talk about restorative practices, but easier said than done, because you got to live in those kids' situations. Like, what does that mean? Somebody just said something about my mother. You want me to talk it out?
Triggered, yeah.
You don't know what anything happened to my mother. So you want me to sit there and have a circle time and tell you what happens to my mom that makes me angry? Like, I'm not comfortable. You don't need to know that. You just need to know not to keep my mother's name out your mouth. That's how we talk. Keep my mom's name out your mouth. Keep my name out your mouth. Yeah. That's a cultural thing, right? And so helping, to really bring into those conversations the perspective that kids come with it, especially our most at-risk youth, I think is critical. I would love to see what that looks like with our kids when they're in their angry state, like where they're not trying to hit nobody. Put them in a restorative circle and let's see how this works. Because man, I got to take kids for walks, get them out the building so they can actually calm down, because our kids don't know how to cope and calm themselves down. They don't have those anger management strategies, right? And people think juvenile justice was designed, detention facilities were designed to provide kids services for, the things that they struggle with, anger. And but then when you think about it, right, you got to lock a kid up to get treatment for your anger. That's crazy, right? And that's because we don't have enough resources or community organizations that are really doing that kind of work with our population, because the population we serve at 8 million stores, not everybody's signing up for that. People look at us like, oh, y'all doing that? I remember when we first started this program, people thought we were crazy for the type of kids we wanted to serve. They were, oh, you're not going to get the outcomes. You're not going to get any funding. It's just not going to work. The devil is a lie, right? And it speaks to about the importance of a leader having vision, right? If I envision them being positive and successful, that's what they will be.
Right.
If I listen to the negative thoughts and bring that to the space that I'm operating, that's what they'll be. So I'm very adamant about, we don't talk bad about kids. Like every staff member that we have here, you better love kids. Otherwise, this ain't the work for you. And we'll know it because it's in your face every day. Yeah. They ain't no, you don't run from these kids. Like they will call you out. You ain't give me any attention, because they crave attention here. This is the place that they can get all of your attention. They can talk to you if they got a girl pregnant, or they broke up with a girl, or a girl is, cheating on them with some other dude, or you sometimes you get them a job and now they spending all that money on the girl. I was like, oh, that's what you do. Okay, get your heart broken. Then you're going to come in here pissed off. So these are the conversations we have, and it's great. We laugh about them. We cry about some of their situations, but, that's what makes the work so. And then to get a text or a message from a family saying, thank you. At our graduation, we had one mother get up and give a testimony. She took 3 buses and walked 3 miles in the heat to enroll in 8 million stores. And when she walked into the building, she immediately said, this is the place that's going to love my kid, because her child had special ed needs, and everywhere she went, it almost was like they didn't want nothing to do with him. And when she walked in here, it was welcoming. People gave her some water, told her to relax a little bit. She felt valued and appreciated, and that if they treated me like that, just think about how they're going to treat my son. So it's an important thing that Holly's doing. I'm so fortunate that she, chose to highlight our work because, we've been for the past 2 years just grassroots style, just telling our story. You see it, social media posts, wherever we can go and tell, people about this issue, but we take advantage of it because we want to educate the community. And I think by educating them, they become more engaged in the work.
So what's the latest, and how can the community get behind and support 8 Million Stories?
The latest, we are getting ready to move into a new building space, and really excited about it. Thank you so much. I think it's going to be a really it's a great breath of fresh air for the staff and the kids, just to be in a different space, a different learning environment that makes them feel valued. That's one of the things I've always been aggressive about, is really trying to accelerate us moving into a space that is, not to say where we are now is not welcoming, because it is, but something where kids can say, I matter, right? Our shirts say we matter, right? And there's no better way to tell kids that they matter and they belong and they have value in this world than to welcome them and to create a learning environment for them that is healthy and something that they could be a proud of. Like, not everybody's going to say, oh, my school is this cottage. They want to say, oh, my school is this nice green building. This is where my school is. And so when a parent comes or a kid comes, they're like, oh, this is different. Yeah. And this is for me. And this is all for you. And so we're excited about that. We've got some great work we're doing with the Houston Texans. They're a new partner of ours. The good work we're doing with local Chick-fil-A restaurant. We've got some great partnerships with Starbucks. They're helping out with some job training support. And we're really just excited. We've got some bigger news coming up, but we're holding off on that, releasing that. But I'm excited. We've grown our staff from 3 to now 15 people.
Wow!
So it's going to be a really interesting, I guess, back to school for staff PD session. So I'm going to kind of look at the room like, oh man, last time I was in a room big like this was during my KIPP days. And so I'm excited to welcome them and to get them grounded in our mission and our vision for the year, because, not everyone's often on board all the time. And, you got some people that don't think things are possible, but we've been good at making people, non-believers, believers. And we have no intention of stopping that. And so I'm excited about our year. I think it's going to be a big challenge for us in terms of our growth, and to see how this program could really sustain growth and expand in the city, because I don't think where we are right now is central enough for all kids in the city to access. Just looking at how big Houston is, we're going to have to create some satellite campuses and additional sites for kids to take advantage of it. And so that's my focus this year, figuring out how do we grow and how do we spread the word and how do we change more lives.
I love it. So how can the community support you? Where can you be found?
Man, community can support resources, whether that's supplies, donations. There's a lot that people can do to support, 8 Million Stories, the county, in terms of the work that we're doing. You can look us up on our website, www.8millionstories, the number spelled out, .org. Our website is going through a major upgrade right now. We're excited about that too, because we're doing a big upgrade to our marketing now that we got some funds to do that. And so we're really looking to expand our reach to, most importantly, our youth. And getting their attention and letting them know, hey, somebody's here to help get your life on track. But we're still figuring things out. We're still small. So I hope people don't think we got like 300 kids to work with. It's a small program. It's a very intimate program, but because it's small does not mean it's easy. It's probably the hardest thing I've done in my life so far. And it keeps me up at night a lot in terms of like, how do we create better opportunities for these kids, and how do we, change people's perspective on juvenile youth or troubled teens.
I love it. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a journey, man.
So proud of you. So proud of you. Everyone, I'm going to have the website, all the links in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. Let's get behind Mr. Pierre. Support this brother, support the kids and the work that he's doing in Houston. Remember, I believe in you, and a personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.